This channel brings Jamaica to the world through documentaries, historical narratives.
When the sky becomes fragile, why Jamaica must think twice about Starlink. Before we get into this conversation, let me say this clearly. If you care about Jamaica, our people, our history, our culture, and the choices we are making about technology and the future, then I want you to subscribe to this channel now. This channel is called The Learning Journey, and the purpose of this space is simple but serious: to ensure Jamaicans at home and across the diaspora are informed, grounded in history, and critically aware of global forces shaping our lives. We talk about Jamaica, we talk about culture, we talk about history, we talk about technology, not as hype, but as power. This channel exists so our voice is not missing from decisions that directly affect us. So if that matters to you, like this video, subscribe, and stay part of the journey. Now, let's talk properly. After Hurricane Melissa, something important happened across Jamaica. Yes, buildings were damaged. Yes, roads were torn apart. Yes, lives were disrupted. But something else happened, quietly. A shift in digital dependence. When fiber networks went down, when cell towers failed, when traditional providers struggled, many Jamaicans turned to Starlink. And to be clear, it worked. For communication, it worked. For businesses, it worked. For students and families, it worked. But here's the issue. Jamaicans must understand, what works in a crisis is not always what protects you long term. And this is where the Associated Press report becomes deeply relevant. What the AP report is actually saying without softening it. According to intelligence findings seen by the Associated Press, 2 NATO intelligence agencies suspect that Russia is developing a new anti-satellite weapon specifically designed to target satellite constellations like Starlink. Not one satellite, not a few satellites, but entire orbital zones. This matters because Starlink is not a single satellite system. It is a constellation of thousands of low Earth orbit satellites, sitting roughly 550 kilometers above the Earth. The proposed weapon is described as a zone effect weapon. Here is what that means clearly. Instead of firing a missile at one satellite, this system would release hundreds of thousands of tiny metal pellets, each just millimeters in size, into orbit. These pellets would form clouds of shrapnel, not visible to the naked eye, not easily trackable by monitoring systems, not easily attributable to any one country. Any satellite that passes through that cloud could be damaged. Not just Starlink, but every satellite operating in that orbital region. Weather satellites, navigation satellites, communication satellites, civilian and military systems alike. This is why experts say this weapon would be indiscriminate. Why experts call this a weapon of fear. Some experts quoted in the report doubt Russia would ever actually use such a weapon. Why? Because the damage would be uncontrollable. Space debris doesn't respect borders. It doesn't distinguish enemies from allies. Russia itself depends on satellites. China depends on satellites. Global aviation, shipping, weather forecasting all depend on satellites. One Canadian military commander described the effect like this. It would be like exploding a box full of BBS in space, blanketing an entire orbital regime. And once that debris is released, no one can clean it up. This is why analysts say the weapon may exist more as a deterrent, a threat designed to unsettle, intimidate, and force strategic concessions. In other words, a weapon of fear. But here is the point Jamaicans must understand. Even if the weapon is never used, the risk is already real. Why Starlink is central to this risk? The AP report makes something else very clear. Starlink is not just a civilian internet service. It has become critical military infrastructure. In Ukraine, Starlink is used for battlefield communication, weapons coordination, drone operations, civilian and government connectivity. This is why Russia sees Starlink as a legitimate military target. And this is why Russia has already deployed systems like the S-500 missile, which it claims can strike low Earth orbit satellites. So when Jamaicans adopt Starlink en masse, we are not just adopting a technology. We are plugging into a geopolitically contested system. Why this matters to Jamaica across every sector. Now let's stop pretending this is abstract. If Starlink or similar satellite services were disrupted, even temporarily, what happens in Jamaica? Education. Online classes collapse, especially in rural communities. Health, telemedicine, emergency coordination, digital health records, compromised. Banking and remittances. Digital transactions slow or fail. Diaspora lifelines are disrupted. Tourism, booking systems, payment systems, communications freeze. Business. Small businesses relying on online sales stall. Government, disaster coordination, public communication, and national response weaken. This is not fear-mongering. This is infrastructure reality. The real structural problem. The real issue is not Russia. The real issue is not Elon Musk. The real issue is concentration of dependence. When one privately owned system, controlled outside our borders, becomes essential to daily national functioning, that is no longer innovation. That is strategic exposure. History teaches us this lesson repeatedly. Railways once controlled economies. Oil pipelines shaped geopolitics. Undersea cables still dictate power. Every dominant infrastructure becomes a pressure point, and today that pressure point sits above our heads. Silent, invisible, vulnerable. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not anti-Starlink. This is not anti-technology. This is not anti-progress. The technology helped Jamaica recover after Hurricane Melissa. But dependency without redundancy is vulnerability. You do not need a weapon to be fired for a system to be fragile. You only need too much reliance on one option. A resilient country does not rely on one system. A resilient country builds choices. That means diversified connectivity, stronger ground-based infrastructure, clear national digital planning, thinking before the next hurricane, not after. Because resilience is not built during emergencies, it is built between them. Why this channel exists? This is exactly why the learning journey exists. To connect Jamaica's history with today's decisions. To connect global power struggles with local consequences. To ensure Jamaicans are not passive consumers of technology, but critical thinkers about it. If this conversation matters to you, subscribe, share this video, talk about it. Because the sky may look calm, but it is crowded, it is contested, and it is fragile. And Jamaica's future will not be shaped by how fast the signal is, but by how wisely we choose our options. Thank you for being part of the learning journey.